connected together and communicate via a communication protocol in Touch, and there are several ones to choose from. Another reason you may have something like an interface, like in front of people, like in an interactive installation or something, where they can push buttons and move sliders, and then you have a whole separate computer that is doing blending and projection and rendering and all that. And you want those two computers to talk to each other. Okay? You can there's even some uses of having multiple instances of TouchDesigner running on the same computer, and because what you're doing is so complex that it's just easier to do it that way, especially if you have like a pre-built patch that does blending or something, and you don't want to have to take that patch and take the code and stick it in another patch. You can have both patches running concurrently and talking to each other. And that's kind of what we're going to do today to kind of simulate having two separate computers. We may also, I'm also going to be sending things from my computer directly to your guys' computers, and you can even send things between each other's computers, as long as we are all connected to CA Secure. Because CA Secure is not firewalled in the same way. We should be able to communicate across computers using it. At least I was in my office. Yeah, let's try it. So if what? With OSC. OSC, with Touch Out, with lots of stuff. So make sure you're connected to CA Secure. Do you guys can you all do that? All right, great. All right, so first things first, we're going to open up two instances of TouchDesigner. This is easy if you're in Windows. It's difficult if you're in Mac. So people in Windows, all you do is you run TouchDesigner. Let me start over. New. Just quit. I don't need to save that. And after it's running in Windows, you would right-click on the TouchDesigner icon down here and it'll bring up a list, and then you find the TouchDesigner icon in that list and push that, and it will bring up another instance of TouchDesigner. Okay? For all of us other people on Mac, we have to do this in Terminal. Okay, so you can easily launch Terminal by clicking up here in your Spotlight search and typing in Terminal. Hit Enter, and it'll bring up this black Terminal screen, which kind of gets you to the roots of the Linux operating system that's running underneath Mac. And to do this, you would to launch a separate instance of TouchDesigner. Go ahead and open up one instance of TouchDesigner now. And now to open another one, you would type this. Open, can I zoom in? Let's see, view, it's bigger. There we go, plus. All right, whoops, my phone. Don't fall asleep on me. Open space -N space -A space quotation mark TouchDesigner 099 end quotation mark, and hit Enter. And that should pop up a second one. So this is what you need to put in your terminal. And as soon as you have them both running, you should see on Mac, you should see both two different TouchDesigner icons up here. Go ahead and move them next to each other if you want. Go ahead and resize the screen so that you can see both of them. So I'm going to make each one half of my screen. And just so I don't get confused, I'm going to put, when I click on this icon, I want that to be the left the screen, and when I click on this icon, it should be the right screen. Otherwise, you might get a little confused about which one you're dealing with. All right, and get rid of your palette browser because we need all the space we can get. And close my parameter windows. You should be able to still use your shortcuts and stuff. You just have to be hovering over the correct window to get it to interface with that, with your mouse to get it to interface with that instance of TouchDesigner. So this is running two instances or two processes of TouchDesigner at the same time. And Touch lets you do that, which is great. Some programs don't. All right, go ahead and zoom out to get out of your project 1 and just delete your project 1 on both things. Okay, so you'll still have a perform and a local. Wait, oops, on this one, I accidentally deleted my perform. Doesn't really matter, we're not going to go into performance mode, but just get rid of your project 1 on each one. Okay, now we're going to make 4 container comps in each thing here. So go in here, comp, container, 1, and then just you can copy and paste, 2, 3, 4. And then do the same thing over here. Container 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And now let's just go ahead and name these in each instance. And we're going to use each one of these containers to hold objects for 4 different methods of communicating in TouchDesigner. So the first one that we're going to be looking at is touch outs. So I'm going to say touch space outs. It puts an underscore in there for you because in real life you can't have a space. Osc outs. Siphon outs. And those on Windows, you might want to put Spout outs there instead because you won't be using Siphon, but it doesn't matter. And then on the 4th one here is shared Mem Outs. Shared Mem Outs. Okay? What? No, we're saving serial for next, after there is another one using serial connection, but we'll talk about that when we have Arduino next class after spring break. So yeah, I'll just take a minute now to remind you guys that I did want you to purchase an Arduino kit for this class. You can get the cheapest one that you can find that has Arduinos, an Arduino like Uno, or it can be a Mega, but Arduino Uno is easier and cheaper. But I would like you to have a kit that gives you some buttons, the little patch cables. So a few buttons, some patch cables, and a potentiometer, and probably a distance sensor. As long as you have those items, that's fine. You can usually pick up a kit for that at around $30 or less even sometimes. If this presents a major problem to you, come see me privately. I have some kits I can lend, but I really think you guys should have your own. You'll just, this Arduino will open up a whole new doorway to you guys to doing really amazing, easy to do physical computing, which is a game changer for doing interactive installation and other type stuff. So I'd really think you guys should have your own, but if you can't afford it for whatever reason, come see me. I have a few kits. Okay, and over here, make these touch the same thing, but instead of outs, ins. So touch ins. OSC ins, Siphon / Spout ins, and shared mem ins. Not meme. Those are illegal in Europe. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to waste class time about it, but copyright. All right. Okay, cool. And so now I think, because the other tutorial did this that I saw online and it was a good idea, we should color code these to kind of get it so that we know what we're looking at between outs and ins. So I'm going to color code these to be green. So go ahead and select all of them. And you can hit the C button to bring up a color swatch and then choose a nice green color that you like. And then it puts a nice green border on them. Then do the same on the others. Make sure your caps lock key is off. And now on the other ones, choose a magenta, but I was on the wrong, I was on the wrong screen. Sorry, I have to go back and put this back to green. Now make sure that you bring up the color swatch on this instance, and I'm going to color all of these magenta. Okay? All right, and now let's go inside Touch Outs. Is everybody with me? Do we do what again? To change the color? So you just highlight all of the ones that you want to change the color. You can drag a box around it. You hit the C key to bring up a color swatch. Make sure you bring it up on the instance that you're working on, and then you choose a color that you want. I think it would be best to do greens on these and magentas on the other ones. Okay? If you want to close, we probably won't use the color anymore. You can close it just by hitting the C key. All right, so go inside Touch Outs. And yeah, so how have we have communicated not outside of touch or between instances of touch, but we have communicated between objects before without having them connected by wires. Do you guys remember what we used to use for that? And they have this operator in pretty much every family, and it's called the select operator. And so let's just review how that worked really quick. Let's create a circle top circle. Ooh, I'm way zoomed out. There we go. Circle top. And in the parameters for this, I hit the P key to bring up parameters. I'm going to change this polygon to on, and I want it to have 3 sides to make it a triangle. Okay, and then I can add, nope, it's not, well, it is. It's just a circle with very few sides. Okay, now we're going to add a select. Oh wait, that's right. They don't need to be attached together because that's the whole point of select, is that you don't have things attached. Bring up your parameters for select, and you choose what top you want, which you can you can type in circle 1, or you can just drag that onto the select, and so that it says circle 1 here, and now you see it will transmit from here to here. It does draw this little association line in there. But they aren't physically connected with patch cables. You can do the same thing with other families such as chop. Go ahead and create a noise chop. And over here on, which is it? Common, turn on time slice, which will actually make it animate And then let's create a select, whoops. I just blew Shay's mind with one switch.
One switch. Damn it.
A select chop, and you can just drag the noise onto the select chop, and it works the same way. Oh, on this circle, let's go ahead and let's animate the circle. Let's see, not common. It's rotate. Yeah, so rotate, put in, open up, expand rotate, and put in me.time.frame.
Is it more efficient?
There we go.
GPU-wise to use expressions than like driving something in the LFO?
It depends on what you're gonna do. Usually, I would say it's not particularly more efficient, but the LFO is just quicker to, if you're getting an oscillating value. That's hard to describe in Python without having an LFO operator that you're referencing in Python. Does that make sense? You could probably do it by using like modulus. That gives you like a repeating loop, or like a ramp. You could use sine to give you an up and down LFO. But I don't think that there's a huge performance difference between using that, and it's just a lot easier to use the LFO a lot of times. Okay, so yeah, that works inside the same application, but there is no way, go inside your touch ins on this one, there's no way for me to get this on the other computer or on the other instance. Go ahead and add a select top here. I can't drag across, it just disappears. That doesn't work. And I can't just type in, I want to see circle 1. It says, no, there's no circle 1, right? So that you can't use select if you're going to send it across a network or talk between instances. But there's a great built-in objects that work better for this type of thing. And you don't have to do much to use them. And they are called the touch outs. So if you're in top, you go to touch out. You can get rid of this select. We're not going to use it anymore. Get rid of the other select. And just patch this circle 1 into the touch out one. And it gives you a warning. And you don't see anything. And why? Click on it to find out. It says no network connection waiting for clients. So the way TouchDesigner works with these touch outs is that it creates like a server that another instance of TouchDesigner or another computer on the network connects to. So until something connects to it, it's not broken. That's why it's a warning, not a red X. But it's not doing anything yet either because nothing's connected to it. But go ahead and go into your other instance. Make sure you're still in the touch ins and add a touch in object. And oh boy, there we go. That was weird. Yeah, and it connects to it. And there, you may notice that there's some latency between these. There's not a lot, and most of the time it wouldn't matter, but there is some latency, and some of the protocols we'll look at are worse than others as far as latency. You noticed also that this has a black background. The alpha is turned off, and then in this one it isn't. You can actually change that if you open the parameters for your touch out. The default codec, at least on my computer, is HAPQ, which HAP is a really good, solid codec that looks good but doesn't use a lot of data. You can change that to uncompressed, and it'll add the alpha channel, but then you're sending a lot more bits through the line. You can also change it to HapQ alpha, which is more compressed than the uncompressed, but has alpha, right? For now, I'm just going to leave it as HapQ. I don't care about the alpha channel right now. Okay, also take a look at network port, because this is important. When you're choosing these different outs, TouchDesigner has chosen default ports for different for outs in different families, but I don't think that if you're choosing if you're creating another touch out on the same family, it'll try to use the same port, touch out. Where did it go? They put them on two different columns. It's really annoying. So yeah, I make a second one and it's broken. And the reason why, if you click on it, it says not enough sources. Oh, I didn't put anything in it yet. So let me see. I'll just send it here. Okay. Now it says it's giving me a warning, and it says no network connection binding socket error, unknown error. Well, it should know, because the problem is that it's on port 9000, and so is this, and two things can't be on the same port at the same time. Okay, so all I have to do to make this work is change this to like 9010. Okay, and now it's still giving me an error, but anybody guess what the error is now? There's no in corresponding, waiting for clients, right? So now I could over here add another touch in and change this to 9010, and it's connected fine, right? In fact, let's put two different sources instead of having the same triangle. Let's add a noise top, and then to make the noise top move, go to transform, and on the translate, say something like me.time.seconds. That'll make that animate, and just go ahead and patch that into touch out too. And now we have two simultaneous video channels getting communicated across instances of touch.
How can you tell what is causing the lag on the right side? Like, how can you tell if it's the network or if it's the video processor?
That's a good question. I don't know if I know the answer to. First of all, what do you mean?
Like, look on the left, see how
it's nice and crisp.
Yeah, and on the right, it's kind of jittery.
Right. So one thing is, I don't think. So the first thing is that this is rendering in 60 frames a second, but you could, by default, it's sending it over the network at 30 frames a second, and that's to reduce the amount of bandwidth that's going through the network. Second thing is we're using Wi-Fi, so there are more dropped packets, especially in here, because the Wi-Fi in here is not the best. Even though we do have full bars, I've noticed that it just doesn't go as fast here as other places on campus. Third reason, it's going through a video codec to compress the data stream, also to reduce bandwidth, and that video codec has a certain amount of processing time related to it. So to encode it in HapQ, that's going to take maybe a frame, maybe 5 frames, depending on how good your computer is, right? So there's a number of factors, I think, that would have influenced that. So yeah, if you're looking for really high performance, low latency, there are other methods you can do. This is probably the best you're going to get if you're sending it to another computer over a network. But if you're doing multiple instancing on the same computer, the way we are, when we go down, the last one we'll look at, the shared memory, That's way faster and way better. But we'll save that till the end of class. Okay, so what else on this? Go ahead and attach a chop, a touch in on your chop channel here. And what's the error here? No network connection, connection failed, touch in 3. Oh, because I didn't create a touch out. Oops. Touch out. Whoops. Chop, touch out. There you go. Waiting for clients. Let's just try deleting that and adding it again. Touch in. Cammy's here. Okay. All right, so yeah, is that clear? Any questions on this so far? And you can see, like I said, like they choose different ports for you based on the family. This one was 9,000 by default, and then the touch, the chop was the 8,000. I can't try to use on a touch out a chop. I still can't use the same port as a touch out top. They still have to be on unique ports. That's why they choose different ports for you. If I try to say send this to 9,000, it says binding socket error because it can't bind to that net socket. Okay, so that. Now I need to restart my touch in. Let's see. There is, I think if you just bypass it and then turn it back on, no. I'm trying to see if there's a way to avoid just deleting this and redoing. Oh, active. Turn the active off and back on, and then it will reconnect. Okay, let me resize this a little bit so I don't have to keep moving it over. Okay, cool. Well, why don't we try to actually send data to a different computer? Now, I was able to test this on 2 computers, and I think it might work on more than 2 computers at the same time, receiving on more than 2 computers, but I might be proved wrong on that. If we can't do it on more than 2 computers, then what I think we should do is you should send it to your neighbor's computer. All right, but for now, I'll try to send a video from my computer to your computer. Actually, I'm going to send it to a port, and you're going to connect to that port. So right now, look at your touch in on your top here. We've just been changing the port, but we've been leaving this computer name IP alone, and it says localhost. That connects to the same computer that you are running on, right? It does correspond to a specific IP address, which is 192.168.101 or something like that. But no, it's 127.001 is what that corresponds to. It's called the loopback IP address. But if I was going to send between one computer and another computer, I would need to know the IP address of that computer so that I could connect to it with the touch in object. So I'm going to create a video here. I'm going to drag one from my desktop. Okay, and I'm going to send this on a touch out top. Touch out. Gosh, it's so annoying they put it on a different column. And now I need to make sure I give it a unique port. So I'm going to say 9050. Okay, and now I have no clients, but you guys can connect. But before you can do that, you need to know what your IP address is. All right, so on Mac, this is fairly simple. You go to System Preferences and go to Network and click on the one that you're using, Wi-Fi. I think you're all using Wi-Fi. Nobody's connected to a cable. And it says what your IP address is right here. Mine's 1040.156.142. So go ahead and type that into the IP address. This 1040.156.142 with a network port of 9050. 142. 1040.156.142 with a network. Hey, I'm sending to somebody.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Does anybody else have it? Can we send it to more than one person? 1040.156.140. Oh, 9050. So you can send it to more than one person. That's great. So see if you guys can pick up my video, and let me see what it looks like on your guys' machines. How's the frame rate? Not great.
No. There's definitely a video there.
Yeah. So it's not great as far as frame rate. I mean, maybe it would be better if I stopped doing some other things. If I turned off my other outs. Let me try that and see if that helps at all. So I'm going to turn this one off, and this one off, and this one off. And I'm just sending through one touch out now.
It's just another touch in with the IP address set as
Yes. 10 with the IP address set as 1040.156.142, and you need to change the port to 9050 instead of 9000. And I bet you the more people that connect, it'll probably be the worst frame rate. What? Well, let me see. What do you have as your touch in? 1040.156.142, 9050, not 9015. 9050. There you go. 1040.156.142, 9050. Yeah, yours isn't showing.
Which Wi-Fi?
Oh yeah, which Wi-Fi are you on? Yeah, you're on the right Wi-Fi. Maybe it is maximum number. Maybe we've maxed out how many connections I can have. Yeah, let me see. What are you on? 9050? All right. Try turning the active off and back on again. No, no. All right. Well, those of you who can't connect, let's try sending it to your neighbor. So you need to know what your IP address is. So you go into system. Those of you on Mac, go into System Preferences and go to Network and bring this up and see what your IP address is. And those of you on Windows,
Open up your command prompt.
you can do it. You can do it. Yeah, you can open up your command line and type ipconfig, or you can
Type CMD.
yeah,
Type ipconfig.
ipconfig. It's the one right above your subnet mask. Yeah, that's it. So, are you send a video through a touch out?
Yep.
So, oh, you are okay. Yeah, make a new one. You could just send that noise, that color noise into it. Okay, and now change the network port to something else, like 9050. Okay, and now you try to connect to his. So change your IP address. What was it, Dave?
10.40.9.19.
And then change that to net port of 1050. How did you end up with the 1040 to 32? Maybe that was what was wrong.
No, that was something.
Okay.
Oh, I got it.
Yes, she tried to connect to you, but she's still not getting anything. Did yours all of a sudden? Oh wait, what's it saying?
I had an extra dot at the end of your IP address, so that fixed that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sending 90.
10, and what's your IP address again? 104919. Yeah. Shoot. No. Shouldn't need that.
So I've got IP4, and then I've got default gateway.
No, well, I don't think so. Yeah, it's usually the one that's right above your thing. Let's see. Why don't you, Scott? Will you make one? You're on that, right? Send it out an output, and what is your output? What's your IP address? All right, dude. Hey, Kathleen.
It was 18.
Change your IP address to 1040.18.173, which is with an port of 9060. Hey, somebody just connected to it. Somebody connected to his. Can't see who's doing it, but all right. But anyway, if you couldn't do it, I'm sorry. That's the mysteries of networking. It is, as you can see, it is possible, though. I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but that is one easy way of sending video between computers, as long as both of them are running TouchDesigner. Now, this wouldn't work for sending video to QLab or something like that. You would probably have to do something else. Like an RSTP stream or something. I don't think we'll look at that, but this should work, and usually will work if both computers are set up correctly and on the same network, and that network doesn't have firewalling. You may have some personal firewall filter set that's causing problems. You have like a VPN or anything like that? Okay. Well, I'm sure there's probably something, since you can't connect to anybody's, there's probably something on your computer that is blocking traffic, right? Which you may have like a, what does that? Firewalls, software and hardware firewalls will block traffic and cause problems sometimes. Antivirus software does that. Other things. Which it's not a net class in networking, so I don't want to spend too much time trying to suss out what's going on. But if you're connected to the CA Secure Network, generally you can send things between two computers here on campus, connected via Wi-Fi.
Is there a way to do this without Wi-Fi?
Yeah, you can have both computers attached via a LAN network with Ethernet cables, and you'll have a lot better bandwidth there. It's probably less latency and more reliable connections. That's what we're going to do for our escape room. We're going to have Ethernet cards on all of the Arduinos and have it wired so that we don't have to worry about the RF environment in the room. Okay, cool. Let's see. Let's do a different one. So we saw how you can do that also with all right, I'm going to stop broadcasting It's gone. All right, and I'm going to restart broadcasting again on my touch out chop. Okay, and I'm going to turn this off and back on. And so yeah, now we don't need to worry about connecting to other people's computers. Just connect to your local host. Okay. So yeah, you can do this you can send pixels across the network by using tops. You can send numbers across the network by using chops. And you can see there's different protocols here. Streaming is the best one for chops if you're having numbers that are animating. If you're sending single messages, you can just use UDP. If you're sending single messages to multiple computers, you can do multicast UDP. Just leave it as streaming. I just wanted to show you that. Leave it as TCP/IP. Okay. Let's see. So then what else? What other families? There are DATs. Let's create an animated DAT. The easiest way to do that would be to create an evaluate DAT. And on expression here, say me.time.seconds. And that gives you a really long, ugly number. So let's round that by using a little bit of Python code. I can say round, open parenthesis, me.time.seconds, space, comma, space 2. And that will round it to 2 decimal points. So here's what you want to make sure you have in there. Okay, and it should give you a number here with 2 decimal points that counts up. All right, and then let's go ahead and create a touch in over here for that DAT. Touch in. And 9500. Why? Oh, because I didn't create a touch out. Oops. Forgot to put my touch out DAT. So touch out DAT. Again, they put it on 2 different columns just to be mean. And over here, I can receive that. If it doesn't do automatically, you can shut off the active and turn it back on, and it should then reconnect. So you can send DATs, and do they have it for tops? I don't know. Maybe for SOPs, I mean. No, it wouldn't make sense because a SOP isn't pixels. A SOP is a collection of vertices that you're rendering in some way. Now, if you did want to send something having to do with a SOP, you could convert it to a chop and then send it across, and then take that data and use it for other like positional instancing of other SOPs. Maybe we'll do that if we have any extra time. For now, I don't think it's worth it. Yeah. Okay. So that's about it for the touch outs. Let's go ahead and zoom out of this container. Zoom out of this container. And close my parameter windows. And go into the OSC outs. Now, OSC stands for Open Sound Control. And if you've ever taken another programming class, you've probably used it before. It's really ubiquitous at this point in the last 10 years, I think, since they've invented it. And it's an easy way of sending numbers between one program and another program. You can still send it in between TouchDesigner. You don't have to. You can use the touch outs, but you can also send this to QLab or send something from QLab to this. Or even better, there are apps on your phone like Touch OSC, or there's some free ones. The one I have right now is called OSC Control. Touch OSC, I think it's only like $5 or something, and it's definitely worth it. I have it on my iPad, which I didn't bring today by accident, but I don't have it on my Android phone. But yeah, you can receive stuff from that app, which Touch OSC kind of gives you like some buttons and dials, and you can receive that in TouchDesigner and have it move things around or trigger things, and that makes a really quick and easy interface for people to operate something in a interactive installation or something like that, right? Let's go ahead and see how this works. Where are my docs? There we go. All right, easiest is chops because they're already numbers. So let's create a chop. Let's use an LFO chop. LFO chop and attach that to a touch out. No, not touch out. Sorry, OSC out. This also has a network port associated with it. You can't have a conflicting network port for one of your touch outs either. But again, it gives you a default one that's different than any of the touch out default ports. So if you don't have multiple ones on the same computer, you probably won't have IP conflicts. All right, let's go ahead and add a OSC in on the other instance, and we're using the default port, so it just connects automatically. Where did my notes go? Okay. There. Okay, sorry. So yeah, that's that. Let's see. Oh, you can do multiple channels on OSC. You can also do what I didn't demonstrate it, but you can do multiple channels on touch outs as well. But it works the exact same way as here on OSC. Let's go ahead and add a noise chop and go to common and turn on time slice. And we're going to merge these two together. Insert here an operator, a merge, and connect that together. And it creates two channels, and your OSC will receive those two channels on the same. So then you're sending two data streams, or as many as you want, over the same port, and you're saving yourself having to do a whole bunch of OSC outs or touch outs and assign a whole bunch of different ports. You can just send them as different channels on the same port, the same object. Yeah, you can send text. Oh, so in our touch outs, we were just sending this one type of text. You can send regular text too. I forgot to do this. So I can say, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I can just put a text here and make it active and say something like hello world, and then insert here a switch, for example. Patch the text into the switch, open the parameters for the switch and change the index, and now it'll send that text. So I can either send the data or the text. easily with touch outs. Doing it in OSC, sending text like this, is a little bit more complicated. Let me show you how that works. So now I'm back in the OSC outs. I'm going to go back into my OSC ins. And remember, guys, I say this every week. If you don't know where I am, look up here in the address bar. It says where I am, right? Okay. Text in OSC. So OSC, let me see, does it have this in the parameters? Does it say anything? No, it doesn't. When you're dealing with chops, they just don't bother with this, but all OSC messages have a header before the data that's coming in, and it'll be something like / and then some tag that you can use for routing. And sometimes there's more than one layer of headers. Sometimes there's 2 or even 3 or however many you want. And our text DATs, they don't create this header information, which is necessary for sending text over OSC. So we have to create it. We have to create that by using a little bit of scripting. And yeah, we use scripting and we use the .sendOSC command. What the hell are you talking about? Let me show you. So let's create a, just go ahead and call out if you need me to stop also. Go ahead and create a text DAT. Okay. And create an OSC out DAT. Okay. And over here, let's create an OSC in DAT. What's going on?
Well,
She can't even send anything on localhost either? And so nothing has been working so far for you? All right, so that's the reason why nothing else was working. Yeah, you got to have something weird with your network protocols. I'm guessing you have either a software firewall. All right, localhost. OSC in, OSC out. What are your system preferences? Is this Mojave? I don't even recognize what's going on here. All right, network. See, it shouldn't even matter because you're not even sending over a network. Like when you're doing local host, it's supposed to be on your local computer. Firewall or something? Firewall advanced settings, turn firewall on and off. Firewall off. It's supposed to be off right now, darn it. Yeah, and it's not on. I don't know, you got something weird in your thing, in your computer. Yeah, so there's definitely something on your computer preventing you from sending network packets. I can't suss out what that is. It should work here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. Networking is very is very esoteric.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't pushing a button wrong and what is actually just the problem.
Yeah, no, I think you got a problem. All right, well, just put the objects in even though they don't work. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. All right, so we're trying to send text from through an OSC and receive it over here. And if I try to put text here, hello, and I tried to connect that to the OSC out, it doesn't do anything. Like nothing comes in on the OSC in, right? So like I said, the reason why is that you have to use this like send OSC command in Python to make this work. So instead of putting text here, we're going to write a script, a simple script for sending OSC. Okay, so make your viewer active, get rid of any text that you put in there, and let's see. We're going to define some variables to keep this simple. We're going to say send equals, and this is a variable that we've named send, equals op forward open parentheses single quote OSC out 2 end quote close parentheses. So that now we've defined send as this OSC out operator, and then we can say vowels equals shoot, this got off of my picture didn't end up very good and I can't see my code. Alright, I'm just gonna have to try to remember it. Vowels equals open bracket, I believe, single quote, and then some test text, whatever you want to put there in between single quotes and close bracket. Okay, and now we can say send OSC, open parentheses, and now here's where we're defining that header. So, not send OSC, that needs to be send OSC. So this here, this send, this is a variable that we defined right here, pointing to this operator, right? This dot send OSC, that is a function that Python understands, at least Python that has the OSC library in it, and TouchDesigner does by default. It's already pre-installed for you. So that's a function. Now we have to define our header name. So let's just go ahead and call it / header name end quote space comma and then vowels, which we defined right here as test text, right? So then close quote or close parentheses. What? And now this hopefully will work. Let's see. Right click on, take your thing out of viewer active, right click on it and say run script. Hey, it worked, thank God. I messed up my notes here, so I couldn't actually see the text. I had to remember what I had done before. Okay, so then it sends it. It sends it with / header name and then what the text was. Okay? You do have to, this header has to have a / before it. It can be whatever you want. Let's go ahead and change it to something else. Instead of header name, let's change it to, I don't know, hamburger. And let's change the test text to hello world or something. And now run that script again. Boom. And now you can see it has that header of / hamburger and says hello world. Okay?
How do you like get a button that will
Send it for you?
Yeah.
Next step, bro.
Hey.
All right, let's do it. Shay was very prescient in my the next step, which is we're going to create a dynamic system to send a particular. We're going to leave the header hard coded, but we're going to have the text. We're going to make that be able to change it based on what you put into a field object, and then activated by a button. So let's create a button, which is under comps. And let's create, go away. And let's create a field, which is also under comps. Okay, so the field will hold our text. Something, doesn't matter. Put whatever text you want in there. All right, so now we need to, let's go ahead and change this from hamburger. Let's call this /button. Okay. Now let's go inside the button. All right, so here I am inside the button. And this is a new object we haven't seen before. It's really similar to the Dat execute. It's called a panel execute. It's under DATs, and it's a panel execute. That doesn't look right. Did I click on the wrong thing? Panel execute. Yeah, there we go. Panel exec. All right. It works really similar to the chop exec, where it has a define on to off or define off to on. And that's the only one we're going to use right now. We're going to add that, go to tab over, and the code we need to do is we're going to define a variable called script. Script equals. And we're going to point to that script outside of this object called op. Oh, wait. There we go. Op, open parenthesis, single quote. How do I get out? Dot, dot. Dot, dot, / it was called text1. Single quote, close parenthesis. And so we've defined that variable called script, and now we can say script dot run. So this is a variable, this is a function dot run that Python knows already. All Python knows that. And then return. That's all we need in here. Yeah, and so now it should, without putting, we haven't hooked up the field to this system yet, but it should at least, every time we hit the button, should send, why not? Text1, is it because this is on, maybe I have to have that not, ugh. All right, let me change my button to momentary. This should work. I don't know why it's not. I should be receiving over here whatever we have in the vowels. Do I still have my OSC out too? Yes. Send OSC button vowels. Go back inside of here. Maybe I made an error somehow. Panel exec. Maybe this needs to not be like that. Parameters. On to off is set. Panel OSC outs button 1. That's right. Script.1 return. Is this not working on your guys's? Is anybody's working? All right, let me check. What did I do wrong? Oh, you know what I think? I think I missed something. Here we go. I know what it is. We forgot to put the null return. So on this dot run needs to have an open and close parentheses after it. Okay. Now go out of your button and push the button. Get the panel out of the way. Hey, there we go. So now every time I push the button, it will send whatever I have defined in my vowels here in text1. Right, so right now it's saying hello world. I can change that to something else, and click it, and now it sends something else, right? Now, let's hook up this field. So if you go inside of field, just like when you go inside of button, it's a container, it's a component, so it has things in it. Inside of it, whatever you type in the field will end up in this out1. And that's a table that has an address, and the address is column 0, row 0 and column 0. So we can, instead of hard coding something on vowels, we can reference that table. That way we have a dynamic system. So here it is. Yeah. So on vowels, I'm going to say, let's get rid of this text. We're going to keep the brackets, but we're going to say op, open parentheses, single quote. What is it called? Field 1, I believe. Yeah, field 1. FIELD 1 / out 1. End quote. And then we need to reference the table. End quote, close parenthesis, and then put a open bracket 0, 0, close bracket. So you should end up with 2 brackets at the end of this line. And that should reference whatever you put in this field. So I have hello field right now, and I click, and now I get hello field on the other end. And so now I can put whatever I want in this field. Shays doesn't work. And click the button and it sends it. What's up, Shay? Oh, okay. Do you want me to look at, what do you need to see?
Oh, no, I see. Extra period didn't happen.
Okay. Is anybody else having problems other than Kathleen?
I couldn't get my first test text to send.
Oh, so your script is probably wrong. Let's take a look real quick. Oh, did you just not know how to do it? What? Oh. You have these on different ports? Right now it's on 7,000 and you're receiving on 7,070. All right, now just run your script by right-clicking on the script. No, unlock it. Right-click on it and say Run Script. See, you got it over there. All right. So that's how you can send text over OSC, which, why would you do that when you can just send it with TouchOut? Well, because you're not sending it to TouchDesigner. You're sending it to another program that doesn't understand TouchOut, but understands OSC. Good examples are QLab, Isadora, Max, D3, right? So I could send text from this to that, maybe, and that also, like a lot of programs, not only could you use that OSC to display that text on the screen, you know, which is kind of boring, but a lot of programs have a have a OSC API for controlling the program. So something like, you know, in QLab, the Go button. Like there's a specific header that if you place before the word go, or I'm not exactly sure what the command is, but it's probably go. So like I could send, and then my button here becomes the Go button in QLab. on a different computer even, right? So you can create interfaces between different programs. I can also send OSC from QLab and receive it here and do something with it. All right. Let's get out of here and let's move on to Siphon/Spout. So go ahead and exit that one and go into your Siphon ins and your Siphon outs. This one will be pretty easy and quick. Siphon's built into TouchDesigner, I believe, and if you have Windows, Siphon doesn't work on Windows, but there's an equivalent program called Spout. Let's go ahead and let's just use noise, make a noise top. And in the parameters for that, go to transform and on translate put me.time.seconds to animate that. And then create a Siphon out, Siphon spout out top. Connect that. And then it should create a Siphon stream or a Spout stream, and then you can, in the other instance, you should be able to receive that. Top Siphon spout in. She's back with us. All right. So this has it creates another kind of network client relationship. Siphon/Spout, you can't really send those over a network to a different computer, but they're really good for communicating between applications to send video streams. So I can send a Siphon, I can create a real-time thing in TouchDesigner and then send that to QLab and receive it in QLab on the same computer to then, you know, to have it controlled by the queuing system in QLab or use the projection mapping system in QLab or whatever. Or I can send it to Max, or I can send it to Isadora. All of those have, or Gabe's favorite, Resolume. Yeah, all those have Siphon capability, at least in Mac. I don't know. Resolume probably has Spout, doesn't it?
Yeah, Resolume has Spout.
Yeah. So that's the easy way of that working. Let's show, for those of you on Mac, let's show how you can, a really quick way of how you can get video from another application. Go to the class website. This won't work for those of you on Windows, so just bear with me. Go down to week 9. And here under Siphon Simple Client Server Apps, go ahead and download that zip file. And unzip it. And drag it to your applications or someplace where you know where it is. And, or you don't really have to. I guess you could just activate it wherever it is. And run the Simple Server app. Yes, open. And this will just, it creates a test thing. Wow, that's a new one. For me, it used to be this spinning thing. I guess now it's just this, the newer version is just this gray thing. I like my old version better, but this is what you guys have, so I'll leave it. And now I can create another Siphon in, and here under sender name, instead of TD Siphon Spout out, I can click here and I can choose Simple Server, and there I'm receiving that video stream. I don't know why they changed to this. Maybe they wanted something easier to render. I'll show you the earlier version. Let's see. Simple Server under Applications. It used to be this thing, and it includes, I believe this is alpha as well. So I can receive the same thing over here. Let's see if if it now has populated a different one called simple server. Nope, I'm confused it because I'm running two at once. Let's close the one I'm not using. There. And so it can receive that, and you can see that Spout or Siphon actually has alpha capabilities as well. But this is the old version of the app, and the new version they simplified it even further. Same thing, I can send a output of this. I'm already doing it actually. I can run the simple client app. And now I can pick up in this list, I can choose TouchDesigner, and you can see the noise coming from TouchDesigner into that simple client app. So that's an example of how you can send video out of TouchDesigner into another program. And this becomes really useful when Touch does something that another program doesn't do, but you want to use both of them, like QLab or something, right? Touch is not great at creating a Q stack with a go button. You could totally do it if you want to design it from scratch, but why when you already have QLab, you know? So you can have Touch do your real-time stuff, send it to QLab in a Siphon stream, and then receive it in QLab. I will caution you with QLab though, with Siphon, the only time I've ever crashed QLab consistently, it was because of Siphon. So it has to do with like you're specifying a certain Siphon stream, and maybe they fixed this since like 4 years ago when I was doing it. But like if the Siphon stream wasn't there or had a different name than it would than QLab was asking for, it would like crash QLab. All right. So that's it on Siphon, I think. Yeah, let's go ahead and make sure you save this now. Save both of these as two different things. Call this one, I'm going to make sure I'm putting this in the right place and not just saving on my desktop like I always do. Call this one Touch Outs, and call this one Touch Ins. Because the next section that we're going to do, this shared memory, on the demo that I saw online, his crashed. So I want to make sure you guys save before we get there. All right, so let's go out of this, go out of that, close my parameters, and go into the shared memory outs and shared memory ins. All right, so you saw how there was latency between things and how things look kind of jittery. And that has to do with bandwidth. There is a much better way of doing it if you're sending to different instances of TouchDesigner on the same computer. This won't work over the network. But if you are doing this same kind of paradigm that we're doing here in class of having two different instances of TouchDesigner, then you can send things to your graphics card memory and then read them directly off of the graphics card memory in the other program, and it is almost zero latency, and it's exactly the same quality in both instances. So let's see how we can do that. Let's create, and this is where my notes ended, but I think I know this. It's not that hard. Let's just create something. Let's go back and create a circle top again. And go open the parameters for that and turn on polygon, and let's make it a pentagon. There we go, 5 sides. Okay, and let's send that to a shared memory. What is it? Video. How come I don't have it? Oh, maybe it's a you guys don't have it either, right? You have it? What's it called? Share. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. Right underneath select. Oh, shared mem out. There we go. It's just grayed out. Shared mem out. Okay, it's giving me an error, and it says, this requires a commercial or pro license. Wah, wah. This is the way this happened in class because I didn't have notes on this. I was just relying on what I saw in the video. He's got a license I don't have. Okay, well, if you had a license, you'd be able to do this, and it's a much higher quality thing. So maybe buy a license.
Why would you have two instances of Touch on the same computer?
So the main thing it would gain you is being able to program modular components that you don't want to run in the same Touch program. So the most logical example that I can think of is you already have this patch for doing blending, for doing projection blending, and it takes an input and it puts it on projectors, and you can split it up however you want, or maybe it does a video wall where it's grabbing this frame and sending it here and grabbing that slice and sending it down there. And instead of trying to create this grand patch that includes all the functionality of something that you want to be real-time, you just have your real-time patch, you have your projection mapping video wall patch, and all you need to add is the shared memory operator to grab the frames that the real-time patch is making. Does that make sense? That's the only really logical use I can think of. But yeah, it's a higher level thing, obviously, which is why they want you to pay for it. I will say, though, that you guys can get educational license of TouchDesigner for, what is it, $200, I think. And if you find you really like this program and you want to work in resolutions over 1280 by 1280 or 720p, or you want to do projection mapping, or you want to do this shared memory thing, you can get that. You have to apply with it. I think they want you to send in. Actually, I don't think it's not as intense as Vectorworks, where you got to like scan your student body card and send them the picture. I think as long as you have a .edu email address, they're pretty likely to grant you it. And it's $200. So if you really like TouchDesigner and you want to do some high-res stuff, that's an option for you guys. All right, so because nobody had any homework, we're ending about 15 minutes early, but we're not leaving yet because I think we should use this time to talk about what we want, what I need for next week. First of all, the other homework beyond your slot machine was to send me a project proposal for your final project. I don't know that I got any of those either. Okay, thank you. But just email me that today, please, so that I can look at it and get back to you about whether I approve it or not. Remember, there's no specific requirements for the TouchDesigner final, other than it needs to be in TouchDesigner, and I need to approve it. I really want you to do something that you're really interested in, right? So anything that we've done or haven't done that you want to explore further in TouchDesigner is usually fine. I need to approve it just to make sure that it's of enough complexity to be a final, which is usually not a problem. You guys are usually pretty good at doing something, at challenging yourself. And the other reason is I will caution you against things that are incredibly difficult in TouchDesigner or that I think are too hard for you to accomplish in the amount of time you have left. But 99% of the time, what you guys propose, I approve. So just send me what your proposal is. So what I mean by a proposal is send me kind of a description of what you want to do. Like, I'm thinking of doing an interactive installation where the user will be pushing buttons on an Arduino interface, and that will trigger content in TouchDesigner to play back. And I want to layer video layers on top of each other. Or I want to use a Connect sensor to have an avatar move, select things on the screen. Or I want to have videos playing in a loop that are affected in real time by a stack of effects or something, right? I want something more than just videos playing back. That would be too simple probably. But if you like created your own real-time effects stack in TouchDesigner, or you had real-time interfacing between either a physical computing thing through an Arduino or a sensor such as the Connect, which Connect, it works pretty well in TouchDesigner, but it mostly only works on Windows. So if you have a Mac, you could potentially boot camp your Mac, meaning boot it into Windows. That's an extra process you have to set up, but I've done it. I think it's totally worth doing, and it works fine. And nowadays you can install Windows 10 and not even pay for it, not even license it, and it still runs fine. So if you want to do Connect, I think boot camping your computer is a great idea. Or you don't have to do an Arduino. We're going to talk about Arduino next week, and we're going to do it for 2 weeks. You could just as easily have an on-screen interface and have the people interface with that with a mouse and stuff, as long as there's some complexity in your patch beyond just playing back videos, right? So send me your proposal about what you're thinking, want, and we'll have a dialogue about whether I approve that, and I'll also turn you on to specific objects you should probably be looking at to help you do that. Yeah, and so then next week is spring break, so have a good one. And then the following week we will start doing Arduino. So make sure you have an Arduino. So if I go to Amazon and I type in Arduino kit, this one here, this $35 one would be fine. Basically anything that comes with some buttons and some sliders, not sliders, but a button and a potentiometer and cables is going to be fine. I think and LEDs and stuff. I think we'll mostly be doing, most of them also come with a distance sensor. I think I'm planning on doing something with this distance sensor because that's a fun thing to do. So anyone that has that, so here's one for $28. That would be fine as well, right? Questions?
There's the one, 16. Is that good?
$16?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, that would work. It's got buttons. It's got a distance sensor. It's got cables. Yeah, that would be fine.
Cool.
Yeah, LEDs. Yeah, yeah. Some of them have a.
Yeah.
Some of them have a. Some of them have a servo motor. I don't think we'll do anything with the servo motor in this class. I think that $16 one is they're not including that servo motor, and that's what's saving you some money. But yeah, we don't need to do, we won't do anything with servos, but we will probably do buttons. We'll probably do distance sensor and probably do potentiometer. So as long as you have those items, and pretty much all of them have LEDs. We'll probably do something with LEDs as well, depending on time. Right? Cool. That's it, guys, for today.